And yeah, a little red dot saying we're being recorded is going on right now, and that's so that I can share this with people who are not able to join us tonight for the session. And just a reminder, since we are being recorded, you probably want to be careful of what you may disclose here or whatever. We're going to use the chat area that you guys have already been using to message me. If you have a question, I'll be keeping a good look at it. Now, if you're viewing this as a recording, obviously you're not going to be able to ask me any questions, but I'll read aloud what kinds of questions come up. And in the recording, those of you viewing this on YouTube, the chat doesn't show up on the screen, is my understanding, nor does the poll where you can sort of answer the question on your screen, but those people who are here live are able to do that. I'll let you know how the poll turned out. Again, everybody who's here live, when you answer a question, it's anonymous, so nobody's going to know how you answered it or anything like that, but just for fun, I like to show how people answered, and then I kind of give you the correct answer. And hello, Autumn. Looks like Autumn has joined us now as well. So, without further ado, let me show you what the poll looks like if you have never seen that. And it should pop up right in the middle of your screen. And if you're like me, I always just move it off to the side while I read the question here. And oops, I tried to, and it just popped back all on its own here. So, okay, let's take a look at the first question. This is going to be from chapter 13, taking a look at personality. And first question, yeah. Which personality structure is completely unconscious and consists of instincts? Now, this is sort of that Freud kind of idea. So on your poll, you're going to be able to answer which, well, just what? Click on the button for 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess I have 5 alternatives, but there's only 4 possible answers here. So which personality structure is completely unconscious? You're unaware of it, and it kind of consists of instincts. So it looks like 2 out of 5 have put in an answer here. So we'll wait just a few more. We're up to 3 people. And we're up to, I think, 5 out of 5 of you have, we're up to 6 somehow. So, okay, let me show you how everybody answered. And as you can see, actually 67% went for number 1, ego. And if we check the board, survey says, feel like Steve Harvey again, the correct answer is id. I don't know if I threw anybody off because I put things out of order here. The id is the, what is it? The energy of personality. I think in your notes, I put the id up on the board first, and then the ego, and then the superego. And I'm not sure if that threw people off, but largely the id and ego are somewhat unconscious. Superego, that's kind of the rules of society. Uh-oh, I think I just gave you the next answer. Yeah, oh well. I kind of gave you a preview of the next question here. So, based on Freud's view of personality, parents who reward their children for good behavior and punish them for bad behavior help their children develop what? What are they helping their children develop? defense mechanisms, the id, the superego, or the ego? So, think to yourself, what are parents who are raising their children with rules and regulations and stuff like that? What are they helping them develop? Is it defense mechanisms, the id, the superego, or the ego? Again, I think I said, we don't put a whole lot of stock in some of the things that Freud said, but actually, some of his stuff does make sense, even though I kind of scoff at it a little bit. And it looks like we have 6 out of 6 people have entered a vote here, so I'm going to end the polling and share the results with you. And as you can see, number 3 got the most votes. And in fact, superego is the correct answer. Parents who reward their children for good behavior and punish them for bad behavior are helping kids learn the rules of society. Don't scream at church. Say please and thank you. That's where our superego comes in. And people without that are probably pretty rude and not fun to be around, let's say. Okay, and again, I'm taking a look at the chat area always, just to make sure that we're if you have a question or something that I'm able to respond to your question. So let me. In fact, let me go on to the next question. Hold on here. Can I explain id? Yeah. The id is what Freud said was just energy that we have. That energy can be like aggressive energy. It can be he said the id operates on the pleasure principle, meaning that we're kind of selfish. That id and ego are kind of selfish. And if you remember on the board, I put up comparing id to a car. Gas is the energy that makes a car go, but it doesn't know which way to go until the ego tells it, or the steering wheel tells it where to go. So it is sort of the foundation of personality, according to Freud. The ego tells your personality which direction to go. If you have aggressive energy, the ego says, go hit somebody. And the superego, though, says, whoa, wait a second. If you hit that policeman, you're going to jail. And unfortunately, some people never learn that rule, and they go ahead and hit the policeman, and they end up in prison as a result. So that's my best explanation of what the id is. And the ego, and as well the superego. I hope that helps. Okay, let's see if I can pull up another question here. Again, from the chapter on personality. Which of the following big 5 personality traits is associated with traits such as being good-natured, trusting, and helpful? So good-natured, trusting, and helpful. Is it openness, agreeableness, neuroticism, consciousness, or extroversion? And let me give you a new poll. And there you can kind of answer the question. We're looking for good-natured, trusting, and helpful. Which one of those 5 categories would correspond with being good-natured, trusting, and helpful? And it looks like about 3 3 people. Well, we're up to 4 out of, oh, now we're up to, looks like 6. So I think I'm going to end the poll, let you kind of see how people have voted here. And it looks like we have a tie. Tie between number 2 and number 4, agreeableness and conscientiousness. And let's check the board, do the Steve Harvey reveal. And agreeableness corresponds with being good-natured, trusting, and helpful. This first one, let's see, yeah, this first one here, openness, is open to new experiences. And I think we said the opposite being closed-minded. Neurotic means anxious or nervous. This actually should have been conscientiousness, means doing a good job. And extroversion means outgoing, the opposite being shy. So the best answer here really was agreeableness, being a person who is good-natured, trusting, and a helpful kind of person. You probably want to know, I mean, the words themselves kind of give an idea of what the categories are. At least I hope so. And you probably are going to want to know a little bit about that when it comes time for the exam. Okay, let's oops, let me see something here. Okay, I need to, oh, I think I can, there we go. Okay, now let's go on to another, oh, silly me. Here we go. Now we can go on. Okay. So, which of the following methods would most likely be used by a psychoanalyst to assess personality? Now, a psychoanalyst is somebody who follows Freud's ideas about personality and does psychoanalysis that lasts about 3 years for somebody to go through. But how are they going to assess personality, do you think? Oops, let me give you a way to register your answers. And so now you have a way to register your answers. So the psychoanalysts, they're going to use projective tests, interview, direct observation, inventory, or case study to assess or measure personality. What do you think? Yeah, looks like a couple people have put in their responses so far. And we're looking at 4 people have put in an answer. Wait a couple more seconds here. Actually, on my screen, it actually gives me how long you've had to answer, and we're at about a minute right now. So looks like everybody's put in an answer. And so I'm going to, I just want to see something here. Okay. So let me show you how everybody answered. And there you go. You can see that 50% of the people answered number 3, direct observation. And let's check the board, and survey says it's actually the first one, a projective test. Here's a question. Does anybody remember the name of the one projective test that I put up on the board? Let's use the chat area to answer it. And maybe you don't remember how to spell the guy's name, which I always have trouble with, but What was one projective test? I kind of showed you up on the board, I think, or up on the screen. We kind of played around with it a little bit. Yeah, hey, okay, Jessica. Yeah, Rorschach. Yep, the ink blot test. That's right, Maureen. Um, and I think we had the one that kind of looked like a moose or something like that as an example of a projective test. Yeah, so psychoanalysts kind of rely on some of those, I would say, fuzzier ways of assessing personality. And I think I said to you, I would never want to go into court to testify based on the ink blot test. There's another one called the thematic apperception test. Our textbook has a picture of one of the uh, images that you're asked to tell a story about for the thematic apperception test too. But the ink blot test, Rorschach ink blot test, and the um, thematic apperception test, both of those are examples of projective tests where it's sort of a vague kind of image and you're asked to say, what might this be? Or tell me a story about that. And um, interpretation is used to figure out which personality is like based on your responses there. So, okay, let me, let's get another one here. Oops. Okay. Oh, more questions about ink blots here. Ink blot tests are good indicators of underlying personality traits. True or false? Well, this one's just for fun, really. Number one or number two, what do you think? Ink blot tests are good uh, indicators of underlying personality traits. And looks like we got some quick answers here. 5 people have put in a response, so I'm going to let you see it real quick here. And as you can see, more people went for false than true. And I sort of made up an answer to this question. And here it is. True, I think, in the hands of an experienced examiner, but in general, I'd say false. Like I said, in a courtroom, I think uh, an attorney would tear somebody's testimony apart if they based their testimony and their assessment on a Rorschach ink blot test. So I kind of shy away from it. Okay. Oops. I think I gave you a new poll already. Let's see what our next question might be here. Oh, in fact, let me back up a second here to this one. There aren't a whole lot of questions on chapter 13 on personality. And on chapter 14, what was that? Health psychology. Not too many questions there either. However, there will still be some questions from chapters 13 and 14. I think we talked about stress for chapter 14 and our response to stress, if you remember from your notes. And you might want to know a little bit about that. But I didn't put a whole lot of questions from chapters 13 and 14 on the exam. In fact, I think there are 13, which if you do the math then, there are 37, maybe even 38 from chapters 15 and 16. So without further ado, here is a question from chapter 15 already. Which of the following is enough for saying that a behavior is a disorder? It's not common statistically. Behavior goes against social social norms, causes subjective discomfort, causes an inability to function, or it causes emotional distress. Which one of those, just by itself, is probably enough to say that somebody has a psychological disorder? If you remember, some of them, they might not tell the whole story. It's kind of a tricky question. I kind of know that, but looks like a couple people have answered. Well, actually, all of you have answered already. So let me show you how people tended to answer. And as you'll see, lots of people went for number 4. So maybe it wasn't as tricky as I thought, because that is the correct answer. If you remember, I said, you know, if something is different than the average, it kind of makes us, take interest. But I'm different than the average being left-handed. But that doesn't mean I have a disorder of any sort. It just means I'm different than the average. Go against social norms. I used to have my hair long enough to touch my shoulders. But does that mean that I have a disorder? Subjective discomfort, being around spiders or heights, might not be enough. But if you can't function, that's serious. And I think that one is enough for us to say somebody does definitely have a disorder. So I'm probably going to ask you something about that when it comes time for the exam. Okay, let's try to take another question from chapter 15, probably taking a look at some of the specific disorders. Oh, yeah, why do we have disorders? I think I talked about causes. So biological models. Remember, by the way, if I highlight something, it means I'm trying to if I put it in bold, I'm trying to pull your attention to it. So biological models for explaining psychological disorders may look at all of the following except what? Let me give you a chance to answer this one. Whoops, relaunch. Here we go. Should get a new way to answer right now. So which one of the following doesn't involve biology? So genetics, imbalance of certain neurotransmitters, brain damage, effects of toxins like lead, parenting styles. Which one does not involve biology? All the other ones involve biology. So it looks like 4 people have put in, we're up to 5 now. And hold off for one more person, maybe. Maybe not. Okay, let's end a poll and let you see. And again, those who are viewing this as a recording, 3 out of 5 people voted for number 5. And in fact, that is the correct answer. Biological models would take a look at, they'd definitely look at genetics there and neurotransmitters. In fact, let me give you a sort of a biology question. Anybody remember what neurotransmitter, that's these things right here, what neurotransmitter is involved with depression? Go ahead and use the chat area. Somebody see if, yeah, okay, serotonin, yeah. And too little serotonin seems to be involved with people being depressed. And I still would love to do research on whether going out and, dancing and stuff like that, I would love to know if that boosts our serotonin levels, because I have a suspicion it does. Brain damage, that's definitely a biological problem. Lead, lead can lead to brain damage. Lead paint. We used to have lead in gasoline, and it was found that it was affecting people's intelligence levels. So the idea was, let's not put lead in gas anymore. That's why you guys always see, used unleaded gas. for your car. So, okay, let's whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Relaunch the poll. That kind of gives you a fresh one there. And let's take a look at another question. Whoa, hold on there. Sorry, whoever just answered. Let's go on to the next question. Oops, I'm on the, I started doing something new today, and let's see if that, there we go. So, this manual provides a comprehensive list of more than 400 mental disorders grouped into 17 broad categories. It is abbreviated as APA, MMPI-2, DSM-5, 200-17. So what's the manual? What's the book that we use to list all the disorders? And actually, if you remember, it has those codes that we put on insurance forms and stuff like that. And it looks like a lot of you are answering so far. So we're up to 5 people put an answer in. So, and I'm just going to see who, anybody new joined us. Now, we're with the same people here. So, let me end the poll and let you see that 3 out of 5 people voted for the number 3, DSM-5. And DSM-5 is, in fact, the correct answer. We call it the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. We're in the 5th edition. This APA here, that's the American Psychological, or sometimes the American Psychiatric Association. That's the initials for that. MMPI-2, this actually is the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, the one that has the 567 true-false questions. A great test, but it is not the manual that we use. DSM-5 is the manual that we use in order to diagnose somebody. And like I said, many of us have many of the disorders memorized, but 400 different mental disorders. Sometimes we have to look things up and see if, well, just see what's what. Okay. So, again, I'm taking a look at the chat area to make sure if you had a question or something like that, I'm able to respond to anybody's question, and I'm not seeing anything new over here. So let me try to go to a new question. Again, probably from chapter 15 here, looking at the psychological disorders. Anxiety that seems to have no real source. It consists of excessive worrying and is associated with physical symptoms such as difficulty concentrating, irritability, and sleeping problems, called what? Lots of anxiety with no real source. Panic disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, phobia, agoraphobia, or generalized anxiety disorder. And here comes your chance to put in your answer. So it looks like 4 people have put in. We're up to 5 now. And pretty much a majority have put in the same answer. So I'm going to, we're up to 6 people have put in an answer. So here we go. I end the poll and share the results with you. And those of you watching this as a recording, I'll tell you 5 out of 6 people went for number 5. And that is, in fact, the correct answer. Yeah, anxiety that has has no real source. One person said panic disorder, but panic disorder usually, as I mentioned, there's like a first fear, and then it sort of escalates beyond all control. But if we sort of backtrack, we can kind of take a look at, the person was anxious about something in particular. But this question asked, anxiety that has no real source. And, panic disorder, if we look at it, usually we can find a source for it, a first fear, as I mentioned, in class. And then it just kind of gets full blown. It's like blushing. You blush about something, you stuttered or did something embarrassing, but then when you notice your embarrassment, you notice that you're blushing, it just gets so much worse that it escalates beyond control, and that I think is where panic disorder is as well. So the correct answer here was generalized anxiety disorder. Can come out in physical ways too, difficulty concentrating and sleeping problems, etc. Okay, let's see what I want to do here. Next question, I guess. Yeah, let's do that. And, oops. Let's try this one more time. There we go. The presence of repeated, often unwanted thoughts is known as what? Compulsion, anxiety attack, obsession, or a phobia? Let me give you a chance to vote on that, those of you who are doing this live. So the presence of repeated, often unwanted thoughts is known as what? This one, I think if you have your BS detector on, you probably can eliminate 2 right away. And for me, that would be number 2 and number 4 you could eliminate right away. And so it's sort of down to a 50-50. And if you're taking a multiple choice test, that's a good strategy. There's often going to be a couple that definitely are not the answer. So you just kind of cross them out. And then that kind of increases your odds of getting the correct answer. So I'm going to, since 6 people put in their response here, I'm going to end the poll and share the results with you. Again, for those of you seeing this as a recording, I'll read it off. And actually what happened is 50% went for number 1 and 50% went for number 3. So 50% of you are incorrect. And to do the Steve Harvey, here we go. Correct answer is obsession. Yeah. An obsession is repeated unwanted thoughts. Anybody remember what repeated unwanted actions are? Again, let's use the chat area for that one. What are repeated unwanted actions? Yeah, Tanaya, Jessica, I mean, the word's right up there for us. So you're going to want to know probably the difference between the two. What's an obsession? Obsessions go on in your head. You can be obsessed with, the guy we saw in the video, Bill, he'd obsess all day if he passed by a penny. Just think and think and think about that penny, and the rest of his day was ruined. And that's an obsession, and a compulsion is something that you just have to do. Wash your hands, wash your hands. Some people have to tap 3 times before they do something. Boy, I'm trying to think. Lock and unlock the door. I think we kind of use that as an example. Lock and unlock the door 3 times before you can go to bed, let's say. And I mean, it can be very disruptive to a person's life to have a compulsion that they have to do, a compulsive act. So you want to know the difference between those two, compulsions and obsessions. Okay. So that should blank out your screen sort of. And let's go on to another one here. This one, which type of schizophrenia is associated with frequent hallucinations, inappropriate affect, or inappropriate emotions? Affect is your emotions, and disorganization in speech. I went to the cram style that took me to the Don Drysdale, and then I saw snowmen. So let me give you a chance to answer this. There you go. And which one of these 5 things do you think is the type of schizophrenia associated with hallucinations, inappropriate emotions, and disorganized speech? I gave us 2 of them, I think, in class. I'll stop at that point, but it looks like four of you have put in a response. So we're just kind of waiting for maybe 1 or 2 more people to put in a response. We're up to 5. And maybe I'll end the poll here. We're up to 6 out of 6 here. So I'm going to end the poll and share the results with you. And as you can see, 50% of you said number 2. And kind of a trick question. This one, our newest edition of the textbook doesn't really explain the 5 different types of schizophrenia, but these 5 things listed are the different types: catatonic, paranoid, disorganized, undifferentiated, residual. And let me show you. The correct answer was, yeah, disorganized. And sometimes when you see a word in the question and you see the same word in the answers, sometimes that's the best clue. Catatonic. Does anybody remember what I said about being catatonic in class? Anybody remember what those people are like if you're catatonic? Again, we'll use the chat area there. Yeah, being frozen in place. That's exactly it, Tanaya. With that sort of waxy flexibility, I said, like a Gumby doll. Paranoid. I'm pretty sure I mentioned, highly suspicious. Boy, the government is listening to everything. Actually, they probably are. Who knows? But I mean, there are people who believe conspiracy theories. The government has missiles located on the moon that they're going to shoot at the Earth if I don't know, if the president gets impeached or something. Who knows? I mean, that might be a little bit of paranoia. Disorganized. Just really disorganized speech. I tried to give you an example. This is a cram style of the hoogie majig that, and by the time the person is done with the sentence, you have no clue what they really mentioned. Hallucinations. If you remember, those are things that people sense, but they're not really there. They hear voices that aren't really there. See visions or see. I think it was Johnny Nash, the son of John Nash Jr., was it Beautiful Mind guy. He said he saw shadows in the air as a visual hallucination. So, yeah, kind of a good explanation of what hallucinations are there. So let me try this. Okay, that was a wonderful thing. And does anybody have any questions about schizophrenia? Yeah, and I'm kind of taking a look at the chat area there. Let me clear your screens of that poll there. Will all these types be on the test? No, I don't think so. But I think you might want to just be loosely familiar with a few of them. I think you know them well enough from what I just went over that I think you're probably in good shape. So let's try another question here. Oh, is that the next question? Yep. Which of the following are symptoms of most people with antisocial personality disorder except, um, I'll get back to the chat question that just came up there, but which of the, oh, let me give you a chance to answer this question here. So there, which of the following are symptoms of most people with antisocial personality disorder have 4 of these 5 things? Which one don't most people with antisocial personality disorder do? Kind of a trick question, I think. I'll explain what I was looking for. I made this question up earlier in the evening, so it seemed clear to me then, but who knows, maybe as time goes on, things get a little fuzzy. So what don't most people with antisocial personality disorder do? Maybe that's a better way of phrasing it. Well, it looks like 6 people have answered, so I'm going to end the poll and share the results with everybody. And 3 out of 6, 50% said number 4, impulsiveness. And actually, correct answer, what most people with antisocial personality disorder don't do is kill other people without feeling any, I got something blocking it, any guilt. Most people with antisocial personality disorder do these other things. They will lie. They feel no guilt. They can be superficially charming. Ted Bundy. They can actually be impulsive. I guess I didn't really mention that in class too much, but they'll go out and, I don't know, steal without even thinking ahead of time. Just drop something in their pocket. But what I was trying to get at is people with antisocial personality disorder, there's a lot of them with these characteristics out in society. Now, the ones who go on and murder people without feeling any guilt, hopefully they're locked up in Camp Hill State Penitentiary for the rest of their lives. But a lot of these people with antisocial personality disorder function in the world, but you got to be careful about them because they're going to rip you off. They're going to, I don't know, they're going to be your lover, and they're going to cheat on you. They're going to steal your money without batting an eye. And that's sort of what I was trying to get at with this question, is that when we think of antisocial personality, we start thinking about the most serious things that they can do, like killing other people without feeling any guilt. But boy, there's plenty of them out here. There was a company in Lancaster just went bankrupt, Worley and Obetz, because, well, allegedly the president took the money to pay off gambling debts and stuff like that. I would bet, we would find antisocial personality disorder among him. Now, if he did all these things and he is found guilty, we can't say let him off because of his antisocial personality disorder. You still should know, right or wrong, that it's not right to just use the company's money for your own good. So let me clear this out a second. I want to get back to Maureen's question about what about biological causes of schizophrenia? Does anybody remember? Now, I think when I tried to talk to you guys about biological causes of disorders, I talked about neurotransmitters. We already said that serotonin's involved with depression. Does anybody remember the neurotransmitter involved with schizophrenia? Again, I'm looking at the chat area. Yeah, there's too much dopamine. Jessica, you are a quick typist, I have to admit. Too much dopamine, exactly. And I think I said cocaine boosts dopamine, methamphetamine boosts dopamine. So people who do a lot of that stuff actually risk developing a type of psychosis. And in order to help people with that too much dopamine, does anybody remember the medication that sometimes is given to people with schizophrenia? I don't think I have it as one of my trivia questions here. There's a medication that blocks dopamine in the brain. Came out in the 50s, and it stopped us from poking things through people's eyeballs in order to treat them for their schizophrenia. In fact, I'll type it in here just for fun. Yeah, Thorazine. Thorazine is the medication that's given to block the dopamine that is implicated with schizophrenia. Now, our more recent studies have found some other things that work with people with schizophrenia. But I would say in terms of genetics or biological causes of schizophrenia, that's the crucial thing that I would want you guys to know is that too much dopamine, and we can block it with Thorazine to give some relief. Okay, let me get back to clearing your screen. And let me try another question here. Oops. Let's see if that'll work. Yeah, the insanity defense is rarely used. True or false? This is just a fun question. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but let me relaunch poll so you can answer it. What do you think? True or false? Insanity defense is rarely used. True or false? I didn't cover this in class, but this is just like I said, a fun one, just to have some fun. And it looks like 5 people have answered, so I'm going to stop the poll and share the results. And as you can see, 1 person said true, and 4 out of 5 said false. And interestingly enough, the answer is true. Only in about 5% of all criminal trials, insanity defense is used, and it's rarely successful. So even if you say, "Oh man, I was crazy when I did that," it generally doesn't work. Okay, so okay, I just gave you a new poll there, but let me give you another question. Schizophrenia, if anybody misses this, I'm a terrible teacher. Schizophrenia is the same as split personality. True or false? I got 3 quick answers there. Thank goodness. Okay, 4, 5. Waiting for maybe 1 more. Okay. Well, 30 seconds went by. Going to end the poll and show you the results. 5 out of 5 of you said false, which is the correct answer. Thank goodness. I did teach you something. Schizophrenia is not the same as split personality. Anybody remember what we call it if somebody has multiple personalities? Anybody remember what that's called? Multiple personalities. We've got a new diagnostic name in our DSM. We're looking at dissociative identity disorder. Yeah, Jessica. And that's what formerly was called multiple personality disorder. And any of you, if you take my Psych 213 class, will actually see an interview with somebody who experiences dissociative identity disorder. I've seen it a couple of times in patients, but not too many times. Okay, think we might be starting to look at chapter 16 here. Ah, yes. A man has a fear of heights. A therapist who uses the technique called flooding would do what? Encourage him to think of other things, take him to the top of a mountain, present him with many relaxing stimuli at one time, probe the origins of this fear in early childhood. So what's the, oh my gosh, I looked away from the screen and 5 people have answered already. So, not going to prolong the agony here. So 5 out of 5 answered, and all of you said number 2. Take him to the top of the mountain, and that is in fact the correct answer. Yeah, you give the maximum exposure of what somebody is afraid of right at the beginning. And yeah, I think we discussed some of the downfalls or pitfalls of trying to use that as a technique. I think one of you who's in the audience there, we were talking about spiders, and we'd throw you in a spider pit. And I think that could be kind of freaking out kind of experience. So, okay, where am I here? Okay, this one's a little harder. Talks about the different models of treatment or causes of why people have problems. Therapy techniques that are used to modify disordered behaviors through the principles of learning are called what kind of therapies? Are they cognitive, humanistic, behavioral, or psychoanalytic? So let me give you a chance to answer there. Therapy techniques that are used to modify disordered behavior through principles of learning are called what? Cognitive, humanistic, behavioral, or psychoanalytic? It took a little while to think about this one. Somebody finally put in an answer. We have one person on the board. Looks like we're up to 3 now. Waiting on a couple of other people. And still only have 3 people who've answered. I know those of you watching this as a recording aren't able to see what I see on all my screens here. But yeah, we're up to 4 now. So I think I'll stop the polling and let you see how everybody voted. And as I share the results, 2 out of 4, 50% said number 3, behavioral. This is a behavioral therapy. And that is, in fact, as you can see, the correct answer. In fact, let's take a look. Somebody answered number 1 here, cognitive. Does anybody remember what cognitive therapy looks at? What do we try to change when we're doing, or when I'm doing cognitive therapy with somebody? What am I focusing on with the client? Do you remember? Yeah, changing thoughts and the beliefs to change the feelings. Cognitive therapy says that it's not the event that's so scary, it's our thoughts about the event. You know, it's not the sight of the spider, it's, oh, that spider's going to bite me, or I think I shared with you the experience of having a machine gun pointed at me, and you know, my thoughts are what was scary. It wasn't the machine gun itself. Oh my gosh, if he shoots me, that's going to hurt, or I'll die. That's cognitive. Behavioral therapy uses what? Exposure. I think I mentioned, what was that? Systematic desensitization. That's a behavior therapy. Flooding, exposure therapy, those are all behavioral. We're trying to teach you different actions. You're able to go higher on the roller coasters or get nearer to the spiders. Yeah, we're using principles of learning to help you with behavior therapy. And in fact, we're trying to modify disordered behaviors, and that should kind of lead us to think about behavior therapy there as the correct answer. Okay, let me clear that, and you should have a blank screen there, sort of. Let's take a look at another question here. What should you look for if you're seeking professional help? And let me give you a chance to answer this one. What should you look for when you're seeking professional help? Looks like 4 out of 4 right away. 5 out of 5, all going for the same answer here. So let me end the poll and let you see how you did. Everybody picked number 1, licensure. And as you know, that's kind of what I emphasized in class. I think licensure, at least, a person has to have gone through some training in order to get their license. I mean, all of these other things might be kind of, well, I mean, low cost. You get what you paid for. I've worked with males and females, so that's not necessarily a required thing, although there may be things that you feel more comfortable talking with somebody of the same gender or opposite gender. Well, obviously, this was just supposed to be me having fun. But yeah, that's not necessary. And same culture as you is not necessary either. It may be helpful if somebody is aware of your culture, but I don't think they have to be the same culture. I've worked with clients from the Amish community. I'm not Amish by birth, and but it would help if I'm aware of what Amish culture is like. It's helpful if I'm aware what Hispanic culture is like. Maybe even aware of certain issues that a woman faces that I, as a male, don't face. So this top one, though, licensure, I think certainly is a very, very, very important thing to keep in mind when you're choosing a therapist. So let me clear the drawings there, and whoops. Here we go. Oh, electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, has been shown to be effective for people who had schizophrenia, were anxious, were severely depressed, were normal. So let me give you a poll to answer with that. When has ECT or electroconvulsive therapy been shown to be effective? 4 out of 4. You guys must have all been in class the day I covered this. I think it was our final class of the semester, whether it was Wednesday or my Thursday section. Yeah, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one because as I share the results with you, you can see everybody answered number 3, and that is, in fact, the correct answer. ECT has been shown to be effective for people who were severely depressed. And like I said in class, we don't know why it works. The fact is, it does seem to work. It's not a punishment. I've sometimes compared it to turning your computer off and turning it back on. It just seems to do something very beneficial for an individual who's severely depressed. And I hope none of us ever need it. It's done in a very safe manner, though. I think I described how one of my high school classmates had it done. She was formerly very suicidal, and she said, oh, she was a grade school. But anyway, she said it was after about the fifth treatment, she said she got some excellent results, that she was very shocked at how effective it was. Okay, which is correct? Some therapies can be harmful. This is just kind of a fun one, I think. What do you think? Some therapies can be harmful. And it looks like 3 out of 3 have answered so far, 4 out of 4. So, again, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one, but I think um, the answer to this, 5 out of 5. So I'm going to end the poll here and share the results with you. This is the reason why training and licensure are important, I think, because some people may use a therapy that is not, well, that could be harmful, like using flooding when you shouldn't use flooding. I'm going to mention something right now. If you have small children in the area, you might want to turn down your speakers, okay? But I heard a report about a psychologist. These actually 2 psychologists in the northern part of Pennsylvania were brought up before the State Board of Psychology for recommending something called, here's where you get the children out of the room, they were recommending something called butt plug therapy. Okay. I have no idea what that means. Do not Google it, because you'll get all sorts of porno sites. But they eventually lost their license for recommending this because it's a unsubstantiated, I don't even know what they were thinking as they recommended this. So anyway, yes, some therapies definitely can be harmful, and that's why I think it's good to go to a professional and not somebody who's just faking that they are a therapist or something along those lines. Okay. And yeah, true. Some therapies can be harmful. Okay, what other questions do you guys have? I'm looking at the chat area there. What other kinds of things do you want to ask me to clarify? You've got me here right now. There will be 51 questions like usual, so you can actually get 102% on the exam. But if there's other things that you're just kind of scratching your head, geez, I wonder if he's going to ask about that. Chapter 13, do we have to know specifics on the people, Horney, Freud, Jung, etc.? Marina, I would say I gave you in your notes what you'll need to know. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on them, but Mr. Jung, I kind of spent a little time because he fought with his mentor, Sigmund Freud, um, and he came up with a couple of ideas that were sort of interesting. One of them being, I guess, what was that? The collective unconscious, I think, was what Carl Jung spoke about. Said we're born with that, but I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time differentiating them or scanning through the book. I do like, the fact that Karen Horney spoke up for women. I think psychology and psychoanalysis were very male-oriented, dominated by Freud and other males, and she, I think, made a significant contribution. What other questions might you have regarding the exam? Kind of looking. looking at the chat area here. And, well, I'm hoping this has all been helpful. And if you wanted to leave feedback on ratemyprofessors.com, you can go ahead. If you say I need dance lessons, though, I already know that. But overall, I like everybody to pass the course, but mostly I like you to learn something about psychology. And I try to present it in a way that is understandable, maybe a little bit of fun once in a while. I know my sense of humor is a little weird, but overall, like I said, I do hope you learn something from the course. So again, I'm looking at the chat area there just to see if anything's. Oh, thank you for some of you sent me private message there. Appreciate that. I just like doing what I do. Boy, it's amazing. I hope all of you get a job that you really enjoy doing. Because I have definitely, for the last 12 years, enjoyed teaching psychology at Hack, and I'm looking at doing it for a little bit longer. If anybody has friends who need to take a psychology course and want to recommend me, that's fine. I enjoy having a full class. So anyway, oops, I don't know what I just did there, but oops, shared window is closed. What the heck did I just do there? So anyway, I hope I'm back on. If not, that's life. But anyway, have a good evening. And yeah, let's see if I can get back to the end here. Oh, I guess I blew it again. So anyway, I hope you all are successful on the exam, and I will see you at the exam. You are welcome, Jessica. Okay. Have a good night.